back to another Daily Stew. I'm Paul Stewart.
And I'm Brian Wright.
So Brian actually texted me yesterday, and he sent me, which I thought was a spoof. I thought it was a goof. I thought it was a joke, but the golden at bat. He sent a thing about Rob Manfred wanting to toy with the rules again, and I legitimately thought it was just a joke. And then Brian sends me another text. What'd that one say, Brian?
Basically said it was actually from Banana Ball, which is really where they're taking the idea from, which basically was an indication that they're really considering it. That is something that they think that can add a little bit more excitement, especially in a late game situation where you have like a Bryce Harper or you have a Ohtani that could maybe be up. You could put him in a situation where you could put him, give him an AB.
So let's explain.
So tell me what you think.
Yeah. So let's explain the rule first. So the idea, the premise behind it is you get a golden at bat. So one at bat per game per the manager's discretion. It doesn't necessarily have to be best hitter. It's assumed that it would be your best hitter comes up.
Maybe the guy that's for the day. Yeah.
And you get to put that hitter in at any time. So not a pinch hitter, but a player in the current lineup. So it could be anybody. So Aaron Judge is an obvious example. If he comes up, or Ohtani or Harper or any of your big time guys. So that's what it means. That's what it's all about. I personally think it's dumb and stupid. I hate it. I just do not. I'm much more of a purist. And so my first question is, okay, I get it. It could be more exciting. It would be more exciting for sure. It would be fun for people. But who are we doing this for? Who are we trying to bring in? What audience, what crowd are we trying to bring in? Certainly not the baseball purists or traditionalists.
No. And here's what I think, Paulie. I think a couple things. They have seen how Banana Ball has sold out within minutes every stadium that they go do an exhibition game in, number one. Yeah. Number two, they're trying to bring that fan in who is kind of on the fence, that maybe goes to one game a year or 2 games a year. What if they go to 4 or 5 or 6 games now because of this? The baseball diehards, which I would consider both of us those guys, we're going to watch games or be at games because that's the sport we love, right? Regardless. So I really think they're trying to, bring those fans that are kind of 1 or 2 game a year guys, make them 4, 5, 6 game a year guys.
So they're trying to take. So baseball is great because it's lineup, it's tradition, there's
no
your batting order, right? That's where it is, and they're trying to turn it into a social media post. They're trying to turn it into TikTok. They're trying to create urgency. Yes. They're trying to create excitement and energy. Just let baseball do that for itself. Why do you know the name Francisco Cabrera? Why do I know that name? Because in 1991, he hit a game-winning hit I shouldn't know who that is. He was a nobody player. I mean, he made it to the big league, so he's good. But he came up and got a hit in the 9th inning for the Braves to beat the Pirates in the LCS. He's a Braves legend. He played like a month for the Braves, right?
Yeah. I would say, again, Paulie, I think it's one of those things where they're really trying to, well, it's no different than you and I, real jobs. Anytime you can create a sense of urgency, which you mentioned, or a sense of possible expectations or possible outcomes, I think it's just another way to sell the game. And I go back to all the other sports have evolved. You think about what football was originally. Back when we see it in black and white. You think about what basketball was when Naismith and they're shooting baskets and dribbling straight up and straight down.
4-4 offense. And they put the shot clock on the 3-point line.
If basketball was still that game today, the audience would not have grown to what it is. If football was still the game that it was when it was first originated and you did very little forward passes, the game isn't what it is today. So I think a lot of these things, and again, I'm torn, right? Because I love the game in itself, but I also can recognize that there can be some little tweaks here and there. Does it mess up all the history books that we all love to refer back to as a
We
baseball
we
guy?
talked about Hall of Fame and all this, like
Yeah.
so this legitimately. All right, let's just use Aaron Judge as an example. He's the current MVP of the American League and one of the top 3-4 players in baseball, right?
Right.
So Aaron Judge, you give him an additional, let's say they use him every game for this role. Probably a minimum of another 150 at bats per year. All right, he just hit 58 home runs this year, and 150 at bats. He's going to hit another
25.
10. I would say 10 minimum. 10 minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If he gets really hot, another 20, 25.
Yeah.
Like, so does he hit 80 home runs in a year?
Well, I
Like,
don't
so
think
you start messing because that's what. And again, I appreciate moving forward, but it changes things. Like you want to put an asterisk next to Roger Maris because he played 10 extra games over that Babe Ruth didn't. Sure, but
well, I think originally that's what they did, right? They wanted, or at least
there was
that's what they wanted to do. Put the asterisk. He played 154. Maris obviously played 162 and
well, Maris played like 154. Babe Ruth played like 140 or something, 144.
140. Okay, so I'm wrong on that. So
and they've since that, and they took away all the asterisks. But that was, remember in '98 when Mark McGwire was going through this, right? They were like, Mark McGwire, if he hits 62 before 154 games, like then it's a valid home run record. Then he hit 70. But all right, so back to all right.
Hell, let me jump off of that just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, do we, as a sport, and I'm sure these discussions are had at much higher levels, but as a sport, are we living and dying on history, and are we living and dying really as today's culture is in the moment, right? It's entertain me now, it's Instagram reels, it's all the stuff that's 30 seconds of kind of whatever experience you have on Instagram or Twitter.
Well, that we talked about. That's why you have all this nonsense of people beating their chest, pointing to the sky, doing cartwheels around the bay, whatever it is, because it's about. And Banana Ball is what it is, right? It's Harlem Globetrotters. It's a show.
I agree 100%.
Really fun. I know people with the organization love it to death. It's great, but that a fan catching a foul ball is not. Yeah, like clearly they've got some goofy rules, right? But it's fun.
But would you fill up stadiums if a fan knew they could have an impact on a game? I mean,
100%. Yeah, everybody's bringing their gloves, but so this fundamentally changes.
Oh yeah,
baseball, right? The game of baseball, and then you get to it from a strategic standpoint. It's like, all right, let's say Shohei Ohtani is due second up in an inning. Well, let's just go ahead and bat him leadoff. And then he bats second. He gets 2 at bats in a row, right?
Yeah.
He sees that same pitcher. The other thing, and being a pitcher, every rule that we make is geared towards helping hitting, and it's very, very hard to do, right? I hit professionally. I stood in that batter's box, and it was not fun. It was like, oh, geez, these guys are throwing hard. Things are spinning, moving all over the place. I'm not a big fan of this. So I was a pitcher, right? I never planned to be it. But it fundamentally changes everything. And everything is geared towards offense, right? We took the shift away. We made the bases bigger. No throwovers. Guys got to come in and face 3 batters. Like, I think pitch clock is probably advantage hitter because the pitcher's got to move.
I agree.
So all these things. And again, I'm not like, hey, pitchers are the best, but there's got to be some give and take. So if you have the golden at bat, can we now bring in a reliever at any point again, and maybe create a lefty advantage or whatever it might be?
Yeah. I think what they've done previously in the past is done some of the stuff in AAA.
They tested the minors, the Atlantic League,
the Atlantic League or one of the leagues, and so I'm not saying I'm completely for it, but I do.
You just want more at bats. You're like, I want to be that guy.
I mean, let's be honest. Most people want to see Ohtani hit more, right? Every time Ohtani was up in the World Series, like you would see that little emblem in the bottom right.
Ohtani coming up in 3 batters. Yeah,
that's right. And so I think if you could, I mean, would it not change a game if you knew? like the Phillies were down one, and Trey Turner or Bryce Harper had hit a bomb the previous inning to tie it up or get them within one. Then all of a sudden somebody gets on, and you can put Bryce Harper right back up there again. Does it change the game? Absolutely.
As a fan, yeah, it creates instant excitement.
Yeah.
And
as a purist,
I would like to, it would be fun to see in some sort of all-star exhibition. From
you don't want to see it throughout.
I don't want to see it real bit. Like, that's part of how you should manage a game and pitch around people, and
right.
There's some So from a defensive perspective, as a manager, you're setting up a strategy, and there's less strategy now with DH across the board, right? But you're setting up strategy like, okay, we can face this guy, we can pitch around this guy, and then do something. Now it's like, well, I pitched around him to get to him, but now him
will get right back to him.
Right back to him, yeah. So maybe
you walk a guy. I mean, in theory, you could walk a guy.
Yeah, walk to first.
And then he turns around and hits again with himself essentially on first base.
Yeah, I don't know what the runner situation was. I haven't seen how that's been explained.
Maybe we do it in Little League, the last out.
Ghost runner, pitch runner.
You're the ghost runner, or you're the runner.
Ghost runner, yeah. You got to beat it to the bag, yeah. I don't know. So, I don't know.
Are
so
you
you're
for,
I might have to come through the screen and choke you here if you're in favor of this. That's, yeah.
I'm glad we're doing this over the computer, but it's dude, I do think it would be interesting. I know Pierce will hate it. I mean, but again, I think if you take from a baseball like operation standpoint, if you take a fan and all of a sudden they go to 2 or 3 games a year, to 4 or 5 or 6 games a year, or maybe they go from 5 games to 10 games, because ultimately I don't know what the numbers are. I think in certain markets, baseball is really good.
Yeah.
But I think if you knew, it just adds another level to it.
So is it about getting butts in seats, or is it about X or Instagram or those kind of feeds? Is it?
Well, I think it's a
younger
both.
generation, they're just scroll, right? And are we trying to attract that? Like, who are we? Who is this trying to attract? Who are you targeting here?
Well, I'm not sure exactly, but I tell you what it would do in a lot of cases. It would keep guys that leave, and we've been to games like this, that leave in the 6th or 7th inning, much more likely to stay.
That's fair.
9th inning. And again, I mean, I don't know what the money looks like on that. It would fundamentally, you would have to, from here forward, you would have to change record books, or there would have to be a line that indicates.
Yeah, 2025, this is what started happening. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's why Aaron Judge has 700 at bats this year. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So that changes. But outside of just, if we erased and said history, and I know it's so much about baseball, isn't the primary barometer of what a good player is? Because football and all these other sports, I guess they look at some old school metrics to determine, but really
football does not care about records. Nobody, there's no numbers held. What's the most passing touchdowns in a season?
I think it's.
I think Tom Brady did it. Maybe Peyton Manning.
Yeah, maybe it is Brady.
What's the most rushing yards in a season? A few people got over 2,000. I know that.
That's about my limit.
In basketball, I know Wilt Chamberlain had a 100-point game. But those sports, and we talk about this, are team sports. How many championships do the Lakers have? How many do the Celtics have? How many do the Patriots have? How many do the Pittsburgh? That's what they talk about. And it's really interesting if you look at kind of marketing from football has been dominant because it is a team sport. It's about Chicago. It's about Pittsburgh. It's about Baltimore, right? It's about
there's fewer games,
There's fewer games. And then, but if you look at the way the NBA marketed and this is going on a different path for a second, but if you look at the way the NBA marketed their play, especially in the early 80s when it started, it was who did you Magic, Larry, Michael, Charles, Karl Malone, Hakeem, it was players. They marketed, and that's why the NBA, when those guys all retired after that dream team era, there was a rut because the NBA did not have a face, or they did, but the general population didn't like. It was Allen Iverson. It was the people did not like that face because they were used to.
And basketball changed rules at that point too, right? They went away from head checking, and allowed for more of a flow in the offense.
So again, that's part
like
who are we trying to bring back into this, right? Is it but going back to the original points, like nobody cares about football stats or
no.
basketball stats really, but baseball is like 61, right? Is a big number. 714, 756, 3,000 hits. Like there's 500 home runs. There's these benchmark numbers that it's always been and that's what baseball has become, like super analytic, super numbers driven. There's more statistics now that I know what to do or even understand or like why they're relevant.
Yeah.
And so this again fundamentally changes a big part of what baseball has been. And I don't think any other sport can hang their hat on that at all. And again, some people say it's stupid, but I grew up as a baseball nerd. I was reading like record books as a kid. I was like, that's who I was. It's stupid, yeah, but yeah.
I would go back to do we want to look in the rearview mirror or do we want to look in the windscreen, look forward? And so I think that's kind of how do we make the game more exciting? I think it's always been the question because there has been lulls, and unless you're
steroids back, we talked about it. Bring them back.
Well, yeah, steroids are good. We have already said that, but I would say just trying to make the game. Obviously, you aren't a fan of the pitch clock. I
hate the pitch clock.
I like it. That's a discussion for another time. I would say I'm like 75% for it. And you're like 99% against.
I'm 99.9% against.
And that's the Brew Crew.
I appreciate what it brings, the excitement. I understand conceptually. But from you and I, we're coaches. Like that would be the dumbest thing. Like, gosh, we got through the gauntlet. We faced all the tough hitters. Oh crap, he's back. Like,
well, you think about it on the flip side, we bring our 3-hole back up again. And it's not neither one of our kids and let him hit again in the right situation.
Yeah.
I think for younger generations, you don't necessarily want to do that. But for the highest level, I don't know. Like I said, I'm 75% for, and I know I read all the comments on X. They're all against it. All the baseball purists are just like you, Paulie. If the comments on X are indication of the way it's going to go, it's going to be a no. But I do think it would be really interesting to watch a game and see how it works.
What do we do? I used to do charts all the time. What do I do in the scorebook right there? Like, how do I even denote? What are we doing in Game Changer? Does Game Changer have this? Come on. I'm sure Aaron Boone's over there checking his Game Changer during the game. See how many pitches somebody's thrown.
Hey man, I enjoy
all right, so we got make sure thank you for listening. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon. Check them out on all of us. Make sure you subscribe to our Instagram page. We'll have some content on there as well. Right Stew Podcast. We're gonna be working on a long form tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about our draft stories. Hopefully you'll learn a little more about us, and then I think we both have some pretty interesting stories, so hopefully it's engaging, and we look forward to bringing that to you soon.
Out. Go Pack.